What's up guys, Brian Grant here of ContestChampion.com, and as I said in my video yesterday, it's time to change up my masteries, and I will be including maxed out Mystic Dispersion in this build. Real quick about yesterday's video, some of you agreed, some of you disagreed, perfectly fine. The nice thing about making a video like that is I can get out my feelings, get it off my chest, and that's it. I can just leave it at that. I'm going to play the game however Kabam has it. I can't change the rules. I don't have any kind of powers like that, so I will be taking advantage of what I think is one of the strongest defensive masteries in the entire game. So first things first, got to reset all of the trees here. None of these are the way that I want them to be, and I'm going to show you guys the minimum points build that I'm going to kind of lay out, and then there's going to be some options at the end, and we'll go through some of those when we get there. The first part of my mastery build has now been laid out, and I do have 5 out of 5 in Mystic Dispersion. I know some people prefer to only have about 3 to 4 points in this mastery, as they feel like the power gain might be just a little bit too strong, depending on which champions they're using offensively. But I did want to have that extra strength in my defenders, especially since my defenders, they're not exactly like rank 4 5-star champions or anything like that. So I figured the extra strength there might be necessary. So I am running it 5 out of 5. I do have 11 points in the left-hand side of the tree there, just because that is what is required to get Mystic Dispersion. Although each one of these masteries are amazing masteries, I've wanted to run Pacify for the longest time here. I just didn't have the points available when running the Suicide masteries, but this should definitely help me out with the Thorns node and fighting magics and stuff like that. Stupefy, I am keeping 3 of 3. Love this mastery. This is the best mastery for countering champions like Nightcrawler and Spider-Man, as long as they're not on stun immune nodes. I have the 1 point in Petrify. I'm not a huge fan of this mastery, but it is required to get to Pacify, of course. I have 1 point into Limber, 1 point into Dexterity, and only 2 points into Parry right now. I do think it's really good at 3 out of 3, and I might come back and put an extra point in here later, but I wanted to have this kind of bare bones and then see what other points are available to me at the end. The defensive tree is pretty bare bones at the moment. I do have 4 points in block proficiency, as this is one of the absolute best value pickup masteries around. And then I also have recovery maxed out, 3 points in recovery, because of course this mastery is just very good as well. And this might be it for my defensive tree. I might come back and add more points here later. We'll check out the options in a little bit. Let's talk about the offensive masteries for a moment here. I need 15 points in the left-hand side of the tree to unlock the right side of the tree. So I've got the 15 best points put into these masteries right now, in my opinion. I have maxed out Precision, and I have 4 out of 5 in Cruelty. And this mastery, I'll likely come back and put a 5th point there. But if I'm really stressed for points, then I'd rather have the 1 point into Courage rather than having this maxed out Cruelty. This extra crit rating compared to 10% extra damage when you're below 50% health, in my opinion, Courage is the better of the two. But again, likely I will come back and put that final point into Cruelty anyway. The next part of my build includes maxed out Deep Wounds and maxed out Assassin. If I'm not going to be running the Suicide masteries, I'm going to want this power from somewhere, and these are the masteries that are going to give it to me. Now I have 7 points remaining. This is kind of the core build at the moment. I have 7 points remaining, and I have a couple of options open to me. I could max out Glass Cannon, or put anywhere from 1 to 3 points in there. I could put that final point into Cruelty. I could put the final point into Parry. The defensive tree I've looked at a lot and gave it some real hard thought. If I wanted to get willpower, unlock willpower, it would take another 6 points to have 5 points on the left side of the tree, put the 1 point in willpower. I've even considered shaving off some points in the offensive tree to pick up Resonate. But I feel like with the build that I currently am running, I don't want to do that, and I want to have that more offensive power available to me. There's also Limber to consider as well. Limber can actually be a really powerful defensive tool to have this maxed out for Alliance War, but I feel like with the build that I'm trying to do, where I still have enough power in Arena, I feel like this would be too big of a sacrifice to the build to pick up Limber, so I'm not going to go that route. Same thing with defensive tree. It'd be nice to have this maxed out physical resistance. It would actually reduce incoming damage by quite a bit for my defenders as well. And having that 1 point into willpower, that would give them a little bit extra sustainability. But I do feel like right right now it's a little bit too big of a sacrifice. If I want to, keep getting through Arena as fast as I can. This way I can stay on top of that 20,000 unit goal that I have. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to max out Glass Cannon, because this is going to add quite a bit of damage to my champions just, at all times. I'm also going to put that final point into Cruelty, like I said I was probably going to do. And I do want that extra bit of damage reduction from having parry maxed out, as from my testing, having maxed out parry is quite a big deal compared to having only 1 or 2 points into parry. It's not, I wouldn't say it's totally essential, but I do enjoy having that ability maxed out. So that leaves me now with only 2 points left, and there definitely are, still some options. I could put 1 point into energy resistance and 1 point into physical resistance, as with, the way that diminishing returns works. The first point, it's actually not that bad. I could use those 2 points in the offensive tree to max out Despair, especially with running Gwenpool and stacking up those bleeds in war against champions like Magic. If she did go into a limbo state, then there's potential to block a lot of that healing with all the bleeds. So this is definitely a possibility. I could just put those points into Recoil. Okay, I'm just kidding on this one. The extra 2 points into Courage is not bad for an option here, as it'll give another 10% damage when below 50% health. So that's definitely something to strongly consider, especially since I can just use revives without using potions, not having the suicide mastery, so definitely a consideration. I could lob those 2 points into Pierce to increase my crit damage and get that extra, little bit of damage whenever I land a critical hit. So this is definitely something else that I considered as well. Speaking of extra damage when critting, I do use Gwenpool a lot, but pure skill, it just doesn't actually doesn't scale as well for the first 2 points. I'd only get 8% here, so this is definitely something that I would not even consider. As I only get 8% here versus another 10% if I maxed out Pierce. So yeah, I'm definitely not even considering pure skill. I'm definitely not considering mutagenesis. The other class masteries, it would be kind of cool if I could put a point in Collar Tech. It's a shame that this requires 15 points to unlock this versus 11 in the utility tree for Mystic Dispersion and this kind of useless mastery here. Cosmic Awareness, definitely not going to be getting this one. I understand why it's like this because there's not that many options in the utility tree, but still, it'd be nice if these ones could be lowered to only 11 points required as well. I could stick a point or two into the Unfazed mastery, but honestly, I don't think it triggers enough, and I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to put those points elsewhere. Petrify is another mastery that I considered, as it would help me against champions like Magic. It would help to control their power just a little bit better, enabling me to prevent that limbo damage just a little bit more. But I actually don't like it versus other champions. I'd rather have them gaining power. This way I can dodge their SP1s and then get in some, some clean damage afterwards, punishing their missed special there. So yeah, I don't want to max this out. I'd rather just have it at the 1 point. Lastly, there are the detection masteries over here that I know a lot of people like to pick up. A lot of people prefer to run, at least one of these detection masteries in war, if not more than one. A lot of people pick up the Mystic one, of course. But with the path that I take, the enemies, I feel like I'd be bringing in the same champions regardless of which class I detected. So for my particular path, I don't think it's all that useful, and I'm not going to be picking up any of the detection masteries. Instead, I am going to try out having maxed out Despair. There was something in the previous patch notes that said that there was some kind of a fix for this mastery, so I'm thinking maybe it wasn't, when I did have it maxed out at one point, maybe it wasn't as powerful for some reason. So I am going to try maxing this out, and this will finalize my build here. Masteries are something that I like to play around with quite a bit, believe it or not. I know some of you think that I just stick to the Suicide Mastery build, and while there is some truth to that because I do run Arena a lot, I definitely test out a lot of masteries. I've tested out more masteries than most people. Maybe like Rona Noob still has me, and maybe some other players, but I definitely test out masteries quite a bit, and this build could absolutely change at any point in time, but this is this is something that I really love to play around with, and I want to try out Maxed Out Despair. I feel like I still have a pretty decent offensive, power here. I don't have all the power that the Suicides brought me, but I'll still be hitting, decently hard. The defensive tree, without having the Suicides builds, it opens up a lot of points, as I don't have to run Willpower. I definitely considered, like I said, because I even considered maxing out Resonate, or having just 1 point in Resonate and maxing out something like Inequity, as this would actually prevent a lot of Limbo damage as well. It would prevent, I believe it would prevent a lot of Thorns damage. I've never actually tested it against Thorns, but it should actually prevent a lot of Thorns damage as well. Having something like maxed out Inequity, and then the 1 point in Resonate, that would actually cut down Thorns damage quite a bit, and that's what I'm struggling with the most in War, so it was something to consider. But then again, it is only one node, and if I have to use like an item or two or something like that, it's not that big of a deal. But I definitely considered it, and like I said, I definitely considered some of the other things in the utility tree. And this might change. This might change in the future, but this right now is going to be my build going forward for at least a week or two, just to really test out the build in various different game modes and stuff like that. It could definitely change, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, this is my current build, and I'm pretty happy with it, and hopefully it performs as well as I think it will. Next up on the agenda is that I need to actually level up some of my Mystic champions, and I'm going to need to get lucky on opening up some Mystic class catalysts to really take advantage of this build. So yeah, that's probably the next video you're going to see out of me. We'll see if I can get lucky there. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.